Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now, the beer we're doing today it's another stout. Because there was a lack of Christmas beers, I started to obviously kind of look at more kind of traditional winter beers that were kind of like porters and stouts and things like that. Problem is, down where I live, there seems to be a lack of stouts available from kind of well-known breweries, especially down this area, and seems to be a lot better choice for the north in England. So it's kind of pushed me towards an area that I didn't really want to go to at this point, because there's a lot of other beers I wanted to review first and concentrate on them. But it has kind of forced my hand a bit, and I've been pushed into kind of doing more of the what we call the craft beer section, which of course has also boosted the price, because most craft beers, let's be totally honest, they're not exactly value for money. I'm sure probably craft beer drinkers think they are, but to be totally honest, no, not really. So the beer we're doing today is a special edition, and it's from Vocation, as you can see. And of course, it's maple glaze, maple and coconut stout. There we go. Well, we did a milk stout that was supposed to have coconut in it, and I couldn't really taste the coconut. There might have been coconut flavours there, but it was just kind of a toasted thing that we were getting. So this one is supposed to be a maple and coconut stout, which maple probably means it's going to be quite sweet. This is 6.8%, and this can is a 440ml, 440ml can, and it's £3.50 to buy this can. So yeah, £3.50. For an extra £1.50 I could get a 4-pack of most kind of decent beers available in supermarkets. So there you go. Now, is there any spiel on the back of this? Well, it is Vocation, so there probably will be. So, tap into the indulgent flavour of nutty caramelised maple sugar in this decadent and velvety stout, rounded with this delicate, fragrant coconut. A sumptuous stout brewed with rich chocolate malt and oats, topped off with golden maple and subtle hints of coconut. And it's basically the three main descriptive words is rich, decadent, velvety. I mean, talk about pretentious bullshit. I mean, I find it very difficult. I try not to swear, but then when I start doing a craft beer and I just start reading all the bump and the crap in the back, it's just like the contempt starts to build, you know, and it's just like the language starts to change, and it's like, but I don't want to be like that. I just don't want to be swearing all the time, but it's a natural reaction to basically this kind of literal diarrhea that's basically fired onto the back of these cans and bottles. It's just so pretentious and so self-serving, it's unbelievable. But anyway, I've waffled on enough. Let's crack it open. It might be a very nice beer for £3.50. Right, let's get it poured. This is supposed to be velvety. Be nice if it is. Be nice if it is. There we go. And of course it stops well short of the glass, top of the glass, because hey, it's only 440 millilitres. 500 millilitre cans and bottles, just too much, too much. So this is what it looks like. Tanned head. No, this is a different one. I can actually smell some coconut. There's some. I'm getting caramel. I can't really pick up the maple smell yet, but there is a smell of. These are the aromas of caramel. There is hints of coconut. Again, little malty bits, but the main two kind of aromas is coconut and caramel, and of course obviously that brings kind of sweet aroma tones as well because it's caramel. I'm not really getting so much malt. I'm not getting any kind of chocolatey things like that. I'm not really getting anything with any bitterness. So let's see what it tastes like. That was a bit of a wake-up call. Just first sip and I just got a load of different flavours just flooding the mouth there. That was a cornucopia of flavours there. Right. It does tend to be that the coconut coming through, it does again, it's hinting towards more of a toasted, desiccated coconut rather than just desiccated coconut without the toasting. It tends to give kind of slightly toasted flavours. So it's probably what I was getting in that previous one I did yesterday. Yes, that kind of toasted kind of accents I was getting, it was probably the actual coconut, where this one actually tastes of coconut as well as toasted. There is that kind of slightly caramel and obviously the kind of maple flavours, that kind of slightly earthy sweetness that you're getting. That's associated with maple syrup because it is quite earthy because of course of the type of sugar and syrup it's actually formed from. Still trying to get the mouth acclimatised. Flavours, the mouthfeel's okay. It's quite a nice bitterness on the aftertaste, but I'm finding it a bit busy because there's quite a lot of bold flavours which I like, but again it seems to be quite busy going on there. There's a case as though that you're taking a drink and you're not quite getting the kind of similar mouth kind of how would you put it, sensation each time. It's just as a case as though because there's so many big flavours that every time you take a drink your kind of mouth is coming back with something else that's kind of more prominent, and they're kind of swapping positions every time you take a mouthful, and there's a kind of slight lack of consistency with it. But that could just be my mouth acclimatising to it, but it just seems to be there's a lot going on and just quite busy. And I've had a good few sips right now and it's just not quite settled down yet. I'm not saying that it won't, but I'm also kind of concerned that that it might not settle down and it might just stay kind of busy. Yeah, especially when it's kind of at the back end of the the mid-tongue moving on to the aftertaste. There's a hell of a lot going on there. That's a busy little junction, that is. But anyway, let's see if we can try and break down the flavours. So, okay, at the front of the mouth, you're getting a little bit of malty sweetness. You're getting, how would you put it, little accents of caramel, and you're also getting little accents of coconut, kind of toasted coconut at the start of the mouth. There isn't really any kind of chocolate coming through, but then it moves on to the kind of mid-tongue, and that's when the kind of bitter chocolate is kind of coming through. But also at the same time you start to get some of the caramel coming through. And again, you still get little accents of coconut, and you still have this kind of underlying kind of malty sweetness. So you are. Then you get to the back of the mid-tongue. And that's when things start to kind of really start ramping up. So you've got this kind of earthy kind of caramel is really starting to build up. The chocolate bitterness is building up, and you've got malty sweetness as well there, because you've got kind of two different levels of kind of sweetness there. And then coming over the top of that, that kind of accents of toasted coconut are starting to kind of ramp up to be a proper flavour themselves. Not in huge amounts, but it's a lot more prevalent and it's a lot more consistent now. It's not a case of just little kind of accents coming through. It's now a continuous flavour. So just right there at the back of the mid-tongue, you've got toasted coconut, you've got earthy kind of caramel flavours, which of course is the kind of maple syrup. You've got the bitter dark chocolate. You've got a kind of malty sweetness as well, which is a slightly different type of sweetness than what you're getting from the caramel. And then of course you've got the kind of slightly kind of light grainy kind of accents as well. So you're getting 5 kind of main flavours all right at that kind of transition from the kind of mid-tongue to the aftertaste. And it's quite busy on the palate, so it is. So the point is it's almost overpowering. And then you move on to the kind of aftertaste, and the 3 main flavours that are really there. The bitter chocolate, the bitterness of the bitter chocolate is really prevalent in the aftertaste. But you have the kind of earthy caramel sitting right on top of it. And to be totally honest, they're slightly clashing a bit. So they're slightly clashing. And then you still have the kind of, the coconuts kind of starting to kind of die down a bit, but it's still there. And you have still a little bit of malty sweetness, but it's really kind of dissipating now. So you're really left with 3 main flavours, which is the bitterness of the dark chocolate, this kind of earthy caramel, and it almost feels slightly chemical because of just how kind of caramel like, and this kind of earthiness to it as well. It just, you know, it's not the most pleasant flavour for me. It just, you know, I didn't have this kind of light kind of toasted kind of coconut, and yeah, bit of a strange brew. There's parts that I do like, but other parts I just find it's too busy, and just some of the flavour profiles just, they're not really my favourite. The kind of maple caramel is probably the biggest flavour point that I don't particularly quite like. It just does not really blend in. It kind of stands out by itself a bit too much, and even though I've drunken this much, it's starting to get a bit sickening. So it is. It's starting to kind of think, nah, that type of thing. It's just, I'm getting tired of it already, really. The bitter chocolate, the dark bitter chocolate flavour, I have no problem with. Even the coconut, the toasted coconut is okay. I mean, if you didn't have the maple kind of flavour and you just had coconut, the dark chocolate kind of bitterness, and then the malty sweetness, I think that would have probably been a lot nicer and would have been enough. I just feel that the kind of additional sweetness coming from this kind of maple caramel, and then of course you get a kind of earthiness to that kind of flavour as well. I mean, it's like almost split into two. Just it's too much. It just doesn't really kind of blend with it, and it just kind of creates a slight imbalance, and it's not as nice as it could be, just because it's just too busy, as if, like, you know, you're just one ingredient too much. It really should have been, instead of maple glaze, which of course maple and coconut stout, should have just been a coconut stout. Would have been nicer and probably would have worked better. But what would I give this out of 10? Now there's a question. Some of the ideas I quite like, because they're not crazy ideas. It's like adding kind of additional flavour dimensions to a more kind of traditional beer, and I have no problem with that, as long as they're not ridiculous flavour profiles. If you're going to do a stout and things like that, I don't think you should be adding kind of crazy flavours to it, like, I don't know, broccoli or pickled gherkins or God knows what other shit they would probably add to it. You know, like I said yesterday, raspberry jizz. But yes, I can understand where they were trying with the maple, and I understand with the coconut, because, yeah, coconut, it's a flavour that could actually work quite well, and I think it does to a certain degree work quite well, especially in this one, because you can actually really taste it more prevalent than that kind of milk stout I reviewed yesterday. But it's just this elephant in the room is this kind of maple kind of caramel that just, I don't feel, for me, is really working. I think it's just kind of upsetting things a bit too much. But in general, it seems quite a nice stout, and it's got a nice bitterness to it. But it's too sweet, it's too earthy because of that. But it's just, it's detracting from what it could be and what it should be. So it's a bit of a hard one. I think if they didn't have the maple thing, it could have been a decent stout, maybe into the kind of 6s and 7s quite easily. The problem is because of this maple thing, it's actually dragging it down. And I'm going to give it a 5. I mean, it wasn't a bad effort. I'm going to give it a 5. It wasn't a bad effort. I think that this, what do they actually refer to it as? They refer to it as caramelised maple sugar. Now I know what they're talking about is caramelised sugar, because I've been using Belgian caramelised sugar in my Christmas beer, which we'll be reviewing. Not today, because this will be the Thursday, isn't it? Is it Thursday? Yes, it's Thursday, so I'll be doing it on the Friday, so I'll be doing it tomorrow. Because the wife and the family, they go away, so I get peace and things like that, so there's a few things I need to do, so as part of that I'll be basically doing some reviews on that. So what I'll be doing between Friday, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, we'll basically try some kind of more hopefully kind of traditional beers away from the craft side of it and things like that, and just give us a break from well, obviously I'll still be doing that kind of craft box, so we won't be getting away from craft beer completely, but I will try and kind of, I've got a few kind of more kind of slightly kind of traditional kind of beers that we can try and do. But yeah, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. It could have been better if they'd kind of calmed down a bit and stopped adding a bit too much. I think they were one ingredient too far with that. If they just stuck with the coconut and things like that and just had the sweetness just from the malt, it would have been fine, but I just feel that this kind of caramelised maple sugar has been a step too far, and it's kind of detracted and affected the product in a negative way, which is fine. But the thing is, though, they should, I suppose, if they made a big enough batch or whatever, they do say that it's the cases though that on the can it's a special edition. Now maybe they've tried it and thought, right, what we'll do is we'll can it, send it out and see what people's reaction is. They're maybe just doing that. Or do they honestly think that this is a finished product and a bit of a winner, and they're going to restrict it because it's so good and everything else? Coming from a craft brewery, which one would you go for? Are they tasting the water, or are they overconfident and think this is special? But yeah, 5 out of 10. It's just slightly lacking. And would I recommend it? At £3.50 a can, it's hard to recommend it because I think it's overpriced, to be totally honest, and after tasting it I would say it is overpriced. And on that basis, would I recommend it? My view is, if you want to spend that money on a can, give it a go and see what you think. Even just to the point of, interesting, just to see what you think of the flavours and whether you get the same as me or whatever. So from that point of view, if you're happy spending that money on a can, yeah, give it a go and see what you think. If you're not willing, or you don't think it's justifiable to spend £3.50 on a single can, especially if it's only 440ml, then I quite understand that, because if I wasn't doing the reviews, I wouldn't be spending that money. I'd be looking at it thinking, get bloody cheek. So I probably wouldn't have tried this if I wasn't doing the beer reviews, which is one of the reasons why I am doing beer reviews, because it does kind of force me to kind of spend money on beers that I probably wouldn't, and obviously try beers that I probably wouldn't. So yeah, so it's up to you. If you want to spend the money, give it a go and see what you think. If you don't want to spend the money, then I completely agree, and don't bother, and go and spend it on a more kind of a traditional offering from a more kind of traditional brewery, and you can get more value for money, and better benefits from that point of view as well. So yeah, so it's 5 out of 10. It's where's the bloody thing, 6.8%, 440ml can. Thanks for watching, cheers, and bye for now.